Hello, hello. Good morning, afternoon, eve to any and all, wherever you may be. So what's better than a weekly installment of a newscast aired on the midweek? The second installment aired within 4 days of the last on a more correct day. Getting it together, folks. I'm starting to get it together. And boy, oh boy, do we have an interesting week to cover, so let's get to it.
To start with, a Russian nuclear missile explosion caused 2 workers to die of radiation sickness, report says. Let's read. A mysterious and deadly explosion earlier this month at a naval weapons testing range in northwestern Russia resulted in the deaths of 2 workers due to radiation sickness, not traumatic injuries as officials had indicated, according to a report from an independent newspaper on Wednesday. The blast on August 8th took place at a military shooting range in Nyonska, in the far northern Arkhangelsk region. Russia's defense ministry initially said the blast killed 2 people and injured 6, but the state-controlled nuclear agency, Rosatom, later discovered that the explosion killed 5 of its workers and injured 3 others. Rosatom said that the explosion occurred while engineers were testing a nuclear isotope power source for a rocket and were thrown into the sea by the explosion. But on Wednesday, the independent newspaper Novaya Gazeta said 2 of the patients that were injured in the blast died from radiation sickness before they could be taken to Moscow for treatment. 2 of the patients did not make it to the airport and died, a person cited as an unnamed medical worker involved in their care told the paper. The radiation dose was very high, and symptoms of radiation sickness grew every hour. The news outlet also confirmed earlier reporting from the Moscow Times, another independent outlet, that health workers who treated those injured in the blast were not informed about potential radiation risks from handling the patients. I'm sure some folks out there watching this might have seen the recent Showtime's miniseries Chernobyl, which covers the 1986 nuclear power plant disaster that occurred in Chernobyl in Russia, which wiped out a good portion of land, making it uninhabitable for humans for many, many years to come. That occurred 2 years before I was born, and almost very eerily, this is playing out just like the beginning of that. We have a nuclear isotope going haywire and killing the few workers surrounding it that were testing it. We have no idea at this point if that nuclear isotope has been contained as far as the outside portions of the world are concerned, anywhere outside Mother Russia. And on top of that, the workers, or the medical workers involved in treating were not aware that it was nuclear radiation sickness that the men were suffering from, very much like those involved in the first initial days of Chernobyl were unaware of just how dangerous and how lethal amounts of radiation they were being exposed to and what it would cost them their lives. The news story continues on with same accounts and statements from medical workers under anonymity that they were unaware of who they were treating and the fact that they were treating people who were suffering or dying or have already been killed by the radiation sickness. And it seems like this is almost an eerie mirror representation of the Chernobyl incident back in 1986. So my hope would be that as we see in the coming weeks that more intel and information will be given freely by the Russian government, and maybe this time they will seek outreach, and maybe instead of holding on to the pride, they'll swallow it, because we have no idea at this point just how serious of an incident this might be, given that they are still censoring themselves and censoring those who might be able to give us a little more insight and intel into this incident. So now on to the next story. Here's from an article that is covering my favorite subject about my least favorite people, as you could have already seen in the last 2 videos I've done. And I promise folks, I'm not going to be like that spastic little tightwad who's also from Portland. I can't remember, what is his name? His name's on the tip of my lips. Oh, well, I'll probably do a rant video on him, even though it's been done into the ground. But you know what I'm talking about. Beats every subject in like a day's horse. Got accidentally famous. Anyhow, the DOJ dusts off 68 H-Rap Brown law to prosecute Antifa. The U.S. Department of Justice is dusting off a rarely used 1968 anti-crime measure, known as the H-Rap Brown law, to launch prosecutions of both the far-left Antifa and white supremacists. Funny how they don't mention in this story what white supremacists they're talking about. maybe they don't want to league in or lump in groups like the Proud Boys or Patriot Prayer because Newsmax is not, who is that group? What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the SPLC. DOJ sources told Newsmax on Tuesday. Officially known as the Anti-Riot Act, the law makes it a federal crime to cross state lines with intent A, to incite a riot, or B, to organize, promote, encourage, participate in, or carry on a riot. Sources in the prosecutorial community who spoke to us agreed the law would easily apply to Antifa after its role in the nationally watched and often violent demonstrations against the Proud Boys in Portland, Oregon this weekend. Holy shit, somebody got it right. Somebody got it right. Violence being done to a group that had legally, peacefully assembled to make them look like the bad guys. An organization of terror is what President Trump tweeted about Antifa, whose clashes with the Proud Boys brought Portland to a standstill this weekend. Asked by Newsmax whether the Brown law would be used against Antifa, a Justice Department spokesman had no comment. Well, if they didn't have any comment, I guess you're the one making the insinuations. But all in all, I would agree with you. I don't think there is any need to make a comment. I think people are well on their own to be able to decide for themselves just who is in the right here, who is in the wrong, or more appropriately, who is committing the wrong. On to the next paragraph. But other sources within the DOJ pointed out to us in the U.S. to incite a riot at the August 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. All three pled guilty and received prison sentences. Now, this is a law that applies to both sides on either side of the fence, or even, well, not those sitting on the fence because they're not doing anything really, even if they are cheerleading either side. I would say that it is good to keep in mind that this is a law that should be applicable to both sides or members of both sides, because like I've said before, I think there are bad seeds in every group. Doesn't matter what church, what affiliation, what club, what bar you're in. Now, what is the H-Rap Brown law, you might ask? In the next paragraph, we're going to find out. And it's a lot older than you might actually think. This one dates back to the Civil Rights Act. Enacted as part of the 1968 Civil Rights Act, the measure also makes it a federal crime to use interstate commerce, such as a telephone, radio, or other forms of communications with intent to cite a riot, or B, to organize, promote, encourage, participate in, or carry on a riot. The law is named after H. Rap Brown, world-famous black militant and leader of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC. Brown, who was once said violence was as American as cherry pie, was widely believed to have gone into various major cities to launch some of the major race riots of the 1960s. Funny how he was part of a group called the SNCC. I wonder who that reminds us of. People who cause violence but then mask themselves as nonviolent, or as self-defense, I guess, in recent occasions. Not violent, but just self-defense, guys. Having converted to Islam and changed his name to Jamil Abdullah Amin Brown, now 76, is currently serving a sentence for murder at the U.S. Penitentiary in Tucson. I wonder if he's still president of that club, the SNCC. I would hope not. And finally, most famously, the Brown Law was used to prosecute the Chicago 7, defendants for crossing state lines to lead demonstrations in the 1968 Democratic National Convention. The Chicago 7 were convicted February 18, 1970, but their convictions were all overturned on appeal. I'm going to need to read up on this myself because I'd really like to know exactly what the convictions or the charges they were trying to convict them on for. Did they actually cross state lines with the intent to cause violence, or is this another occasion of making an example out of both sides of the political spectrum and the fence, just to be fair to everybody? The Brown Law has since been used infrequently by prosecutors, and I have a funny feeling that it's going to start being used more frequently as a way to combat these violent acts and instances where people show up to peacefully assembled rallies. Having fun yet this week, folks? Because don't fret, I'm saving the best of the worst for last. Starting with Hannity and his bandwagon. So today, folks, we're only going to be covering part of this segment. I won't subject you or submit you to the full, I think it's 30 minutes originally on this. I'll leave it in the link if you wish to watch the entire report.
Now, in this program for years, we have documented night after night how much of the media is just simply an extension of the Democratic Party. They are one team coordinating the same political messages, manufactured crisis. They even use the same words, an echo chamber, repeat the same talking points. And tonight,
Well, look who jumped on the bandwagon that left him and the rest of the MSM in the dust a long time ago. So today, folks, we're only going to be covering part of this segment. I won't subject you or submit you to the full, I think it's 30 minutes originally on this. I'll leave it in the link if you wish to watch the entire report. Maybe Hannity won't speak for himself, or maybe he will. I don't think he wants to speak for his news outlet that he works for, though, given that they are in an echo chamber right next door to the left and liberal media's echo chamber. In fact, I think the MSM are all well aware of the echo chamber they're in, because it wasn't that long ago that Fox News was playing the same game. In fact, they still do play the same game. So when I said jumping on the bandwagon, it's with who he's about to talk to or about next, keyboard warriors. I believe that was what he was going to take some jabs at, because this bandwagon that I'm speaking of has been running in circles for a long time, trying to alert everybody else and the MSM from both sides, regardless of whether they like Trump or not, regardless of whether they're spewing the truth or not. And I will admit that Hannity is actually speaking, I think, volumes of truth and fact with this rant he's on. He's just not being honest about his own media outlet, and how it's not as if they didn't know about this. They didn't know about this bias. They didn't know about these echo chambers, given that they're playing the same game.
and tonight it is on display more than ever after the leak of a recent New York Times employee town hall to Slate, where the paper's leadership, they came clean about how anti-Trump their agenda really is. All this breathless hysteria and all that they preview, all the conspiracy theories they push, all fake news narratives are up next. Because like I've said, journalism, it's been dead and buried since 2007. I said it on this program. Their credibility is in crisis. They don't really have any credibility. And especially after 2.5 years, all the major networks, 2 cable networks, New York Times, Washington Post, yeah, they went with the biggest lying conspiracy theory hoax in modern political history. And they never admitted they're wrong. And even the Times is now admitting that they went all in on the collusion delusion, with an executive editor, Dean Baquet, telling employees that once the Russia hoax unraveled, the story became, quote, trickier, before adding, quote, we built our newsroom to cover one story, and we did it truly well. No, they didn't. Nah, they were proven wrong. They were disappointed by Mueller. Now we have to regroup, shift resources and emphasis to take on a different story. Oh, what does that mean, a different story? It means they spent years pushing their conspiracy theories, their Russian lies, misinformation, propaganda, all to help the Democrats, and they failed miserably with their lies and conspiracy theories. Now they have to find a new fake news story narrative to try and continue to bludgeon the president. They're no better than, these angry, agenda-driven keyboard warriors on social media in their basements, wearing their underwear, spewing their hate online all day, every day. Well, the New York Times is no better. This is the new extreme radical press in America.
Well, Hannity, if your journalism is dead, then who opened your casket? That's what I'm wondering. Do you speak to just the left's media or to your own media? Because you're both one and the same. I'll criticize both. I find myself criticizing the left's media more, but given that you're trying to score brownie points with those agenda-driven keyboard warriors who are technically on your side, at least in this instance, given the same hate and agenda-driven bullshit you're spewing, which isn't actually bullshit, I find it to be true, are you any better? Because you see, when the pot called the kettle black, even if it happens to be true, the pot is still black itself, is it not? Do you see what I'm getting at, Hannity? Do you see what I'm getting at, Fox News? Do you see what I'm getting to my fellow agenda-driven keyboard warriors in their underwear? I'm actually in slacks sitting in my fucking wheelchair right now. So, Hannity, go ahead and group us all in the same group. That's so sorry for you, because even if you are speaking the truth right now, you don't quite fucking get it, because you're more worried about your side of the spectrum looking good. And God, how I love seeing you spit the same talking points. I love seeing him spit the same parallel talking points that the other side will spit, just for the sake of looking right in the eyes of those who follow the mainstream media. Honestly, it's so hilarious. It's like he's looking in a mirror and he's seeing Anderson Cooper and the rest of them over at CNN, but he refuses to see Anderson Cooper. He imagines that he's looking at himself in the mirror. Get it? And as we wrap up this next to last of the final segments of the Weekly Foxxtrot, I just wanted to finally say on this video, I apologize that I can't speak for Hannity or his personal feelings or how long he's held them for these few years, though I am grateful he is snide enough to distinguish himself from these pesky basement-dwelling keyboard warriors. You didn't actually state it, Hannity, but right back at you. I don't want your MSM neocon ass being grouped in with mine anyhow. And now we move into our final segment for this week, which has already been covered by the likes of Mr. Akkad and V and many, many others, I'm sure, although I wanted to put it in and make a few jokes at Mr. Piker's expense, so you probably already know what this video is. Get ready, because we're going to hear about how America deserved the worst fucking attack on its American soil since, holy shit, probably worse than anything the Brits ever did. And they were pretty bad too to us during the Revolutionary War. But anyhow, let's get on with this one.
Soft power, embassies, diplomacy, exact same thing as military bases. I can't.
So before we begin, it was very difficult to find this clip as a standalone, and I don't have a Twitch account, which is probably where I'd be able to find it as a standalone. So I need to and want to acknowledge the YouTuber V from where I pulled this clip from. I'm very grateful, and hopefully he doesn't copyright strike me. I doubt he's going to. I really doubt he's going to. I'm pretty sure the ilk that I've been watching and running with these last few years haven't given me any indication that they're going to do something like our lovely Mr. Piker would do, or Mr. Oh God, I forget that other atheist who always blocks everyone, like has a computer program or something silly that just blocks everyone. He hasn't done it to me yet, so I'm looking forward to getting some videos out and ripping on him a little bit. But anyway, back to Mr. Hassan Piker. As everyone is probably fully aware if they've already watched these clips on Twitch or from V or Sargon or the dozens of others who have gone to poke fun at him, Mr. Piker is a correspondent and member of the Young Turks News Network. And so it comes as no surprise that what he's about to get into, what he's about to say, is going to be anything short of normal for him. It actually is going to be very normal for him. This is the type of bullshit that they like to do, and flying off the handle and throwing tantrums is nothing new for TYT's network or their correspondents. Calmness is not something I very rarely see, unless you count Dave Rubin, who, from the clips I've seen, was one of the few former correspondents who actually held their shit together and acted in a civil and decorum-like behavior. Anyways, let's get on with the clip and see what Mr. Piker has to say about 9/11 and war vets.
Can't do this. I can't do this. Guy has the understanding of foreign policy of like a 12-year-old. What the fuck? What the fuck is wrong with this dude? Didn't he go to war and like literally lose his eye because some mujahideen, a brave fucking soldier, fucked his eye hole with their dick? Isn't that how he lost his fucking dumbass eye? Because he got his fucking eye hole fucked by a brave soldier? America deserved 9/11, dude. Fuck.
Mr. Piker, you sound like no one has pegged you in your brown eye socket in a long while, but goddamn, you sure do scream and cry like you're being fucked in the ass or pegged. And honestly, asshole, what the fuck do you know about brave soldiers? And I'm not going to try and talk up the U.S. military in this. I do believe there's a difference between respecting and honoring vets and soldiers and being against the war. If you wish to be against any war or conflict that America's been involved in, go right ahead, but don't disrespect the soldiers, man. And again, what do you know about brave soldiers? Last time I checked, when ISIS was hitting their peak several years ago before Trump came into office, let's see, what was that town? There was a town in Iraq, and somebody can help remind me, but maybe it was Fallujah. It might have been, but reports coming in through the BBC of ISIS soldiers, in quotation marks, either sending out hostage or townspeople who were trapped within the crossfire, sending them out so the U.S. soldiers would accidentally shoot them thinking they were actual ISIS soldiers, or tying kids, as they like to do, or sending out kids with guns and hoping to fuck with the U.S. soldiers because they know U.S. soldiers have honor and fucking integrity. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. And you want to call the other guy the brave soldier that shot out his eye socket? How the fuck do you know if that guy had a child strapped to him, you fucking idiot? And as for the 9/11 remark, folks, I'm not even going to get into that because I'm sure that's been picked apart and dissected and all the valid points already made. I mean, it stares you down right on the face, right on the tip of your nose. You can see it. You can see maybe he's being belligerent. Maybe he's just being flippant and facetious, although I consider that the most tasteless form of facetiousness that you could possibly ask for. But as others have pointed out, like Sargon, I don't honestly believe that he's joking there. I think he means that just as Bobby Fischer meant it when he said America should be wiped out before he died. Now, I will say, though, that TYT is going to be in some hot water for a while, and knowing Piker and the rest of them, one, if not all of them, will be doubling down on these statements and trying to rationalize and explain them, which is not going to be good for their network. So you guys have fun with that, and Piker will see you on Twitch because that's probably where you're going to be relegated to for the rest of your days. No YouTube, maybe BitChute. You might be on BitChute, but don't expect any views unless you make fucking hilarious fucking bullshit statements like that. They are only hilarious to the people watching because they think you're so goddamn stupid to make such terrible, awful, tasteless fucking remarks about a veteran soldier and about one of the worst tragedies that happened on U.S. soil. That's the most patriotism you're going to get out of me for today. So that was the last segment and clip today for the Weekly Foxxtrot. I hope you folks enjoyed it. I hope it was better quality. I'm still working here from my phone in the hospital I'm in, but I'll be getting out soon and hopefully getting my recording equipment back together to produce better quality videos, at which point I'll be setting up a donor account, not Patreon, but the new one that they have out. I've already spaced on its name, being a little bit tired here and there. But if you would like to help support this channel, please like, comment, or subscribe. If you have a clip or some part of media coming from Reddit or the MSN that you would like me to cover or do a rant on, please feel free to leave it in the comments, or you can send it to my email at centristfox@gmail.com. That's CENTRISTFO 2 X's at gmail.com. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Enjoy your Sunday, and we'll see you next week and during the week should I put out any more rant videos. Have a good night.